If you don't want to be sacrificed, or if you don't want any of your family members to be sacrificed, please don't join a prophetic shrine. Well, if you go ahead and do, that's your own big fish to fry. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm only here to tell you what will happen if you do. One thing that is often overlooked are the mysterious deaths in these prophetic churches of their church members. The death rate in your prophetic ministries are rampant. And some of you think it's natural because, of course, death is inevitable. So whenever it happens, we think it's God who has caused it. But these shrines that you go to be part of, what sustains them is blood. The rituals, the covenants that your spiritual father signed up for, they require them to keep laying bodies down so that they keep moving forward. And in most cases, if they don't find, or if the godfathers don't want church members, and what qualifies the church members for sacrifice is that spiritual connection that puts you in a position whereby you have to call him your spiritual father. That's why I'm always cautioning you to stop calling any man your spiritual father. Because when you confess with your own mouth that this is my spiritual father, you're forming a covenant, a spiritual covenant with the spirit of that man. So when the godfathers don't find the spiritual sons and daughters qualified for a sacrifice, that's when they'll call for the family members of the prophet, of the apostle, or of the pastor. Have you ever looked, or have you ever done an audit to check the family trees of your spiritual fathers? There's one thing that you realize, that their family members have all gone down. Their wives have all gone down, the majority of them, or their firstborns or lastborns have all gone down. Am I saying that death should not happen? No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm also saying that, is it a coincidence that all of them, there's not any man of God that you can tell me now that has a proper family structure, that is not either missing a father, mother, lastborn or a firstborn, or a wife. There's none. Think of anyone right now that you can type in the comment box. Just tell me one. Just think of anyone that you are close to. Do you know why they never post their parents? Why they never post their mothers or their fathers? In most cases, it's because they are no more. With some, it could have been natural. I'm trying by all means to be objective here. But based on what I know and the demands of these godfathers that they serve, they have to give up someone that is dear to them. They have to sacrifice their children. They have to sacrifice their wives, or even their mothers, or their fathers, or their siblings. That's when the godfathers are calling for a high price. But in most case scenarios, come on, the spiritual sons and daughters can do. The spiritual sons and daughters can fill up the gap. That's why you realize that in your shrines, people are going down one by one, and they're not accounted for. That news is never brought up. Because if they bring it up, it kills public confidence. If they were to bring it up, in churches like Emmanuel Makandiwa's churches, do you know how many bodies go down? Even pastors and all these relevant participants in these shrines. But it's never spoken about. And one weird thing, it's not even weird because I understand the reason why they don't, is that they don't attend the funerals of anyone who goes down in their shrines. They are not attending, not because they don't want to, they are not allowed to. And if you see any funeral where a pastor does not attend, he has something to do with it. Where a prophet does not attend, he has something to do with it. Come on, most of you come from these mainline churches, your Roman Catholic and Anglican. Don't your fathers come to bury any one of their members? They do come. The fathers in Roman Catholic, they do show up because they have nothing to do with it. But look at your prophets, your modern day native doctors that you call your prophets, they will never. And one man that I know for sure, one man that is so strict, that is the legend in not attending the funerals of his church members is Emmanuel Makandiwa. I've told his followers this several times that, look, even if you see those two pastors that Emmanuel Makandiwa does his programs with, if one of them dies today, Makandiwa will never show up. Do you know how many pastors in his church that were very close to him? When I say very close, I mean like second in charge. Second in charge. They will die today, Makandiwa will never go. And he has never gone to a single one funeral. And all of them, they mysteriously left. And by left, I mean went 6 feet underground. And even look at Paul Enenche, when this popular musician, who was more like the backbone of his music ministry in his church. Is it Osinachi? If I'm not mistaken. Or Sinachi, but I think it's Osinachi. Enenche, he heard that she passed away and he went to Cameroon for a crusade, just so that he can have an excuse for not attending. But that lady was one person who would minister each and every Sunday service before Enenche preached. She would minister each and every Sunday service. But when she knocked out, he never showed up. That's their mode of operation. They don't. And there's a reason to it. If you are responsible for it, if you go there when the spirit is still roaming, that spirit will fight you back. It will show you flames if you show up on that funeral. So these are just few highlights, some of the things that you should take cognizance of, that you should know of. If you care for your family, if you care about yourself, you don't want to endanger the lives of your children, don't go to these prophetic shrines. These prophetic shrines now are being led by native doctors, by traditional healers, by sorcerers. They are all sorcerers, these ones. The moment you see a man having to go to a foreign land for them to be initiated for ministry, then you must know something is amiss. Whatever that they're going to do there comes with conditions. Whatever sort of power that they are going to collect there comes with conditions. And some of these conditions, most of these conditions, if not all of these conditions, require for them to make sacrifices. That's why Felix Okoh, in his confession, he probably did not know that he was confessing. Okay, listen to his confession.
There is a reason why the occults, when they want to do anything, they have to lay down sacrifices. They have to. They have to. I've been privileged to counsel some occults. I was privileged recently from somebody called me. I was with Hannah, my daughter, as we were driving back from Rambeg towards the south. And a guy called me who had joined one of these major Illuminati. Let me just call it out since I've said it. He's joined and, he couldn't cope with the conditions. Things were backfiring on him. And you know what he said to me? Apostle, please get me out. Get me out. He couldn't keep up with the sacrifices. Because you see, when you join, they don't tell you how easy. Another of my son, this one is a pastor. I don't even know how he got himself into that. When he joined this thing, he didn't know, well, now he has repented. So we've been able to help him out of the whole situation. When he joined this thing, he didn't know that later on they were going to, one day they called him and said, listen, it's time to renew power. And they said, this time around, we want your first son. Now, his wife doesn't even know he has joined something. And he ran to my office. Got into my office. They sat down. They came to greet me. He told his wife, please go to the reception. I need to talk to Papa. He said, Daddy, he just fell on his knees. I'm in trouble. What? They need my first son. Who? Who requires your first son? And he told me the whole story. I said, son, unfortunately, I can't just deliver you. You enter the contract. Because we understand the laws in the realm of the spirit. I said, you have to go back and renegotiate. If you think you can just come here and say, hey, you are delivered. You entered willingly. I said, go and renegotiate. The only thing I'm going to pray for you is that God will help you and give you favor. And he went and renegotiated and he asked for a ransom. Heavy money. But unfortunately, as soon as he paid that ransom, the church closed. Because the thing that was working the church. Hey, God.
And then now, what shows that when God wants to expose people, he just laid them up for the public to observe. If you look at Felix Okoh himself and his family tree, if I can start counting the bodies that went down during his entire tenure of ministry, if I start counting the bodies that went down on the side of his former wife and on his own side, If I start laying them down one by one before we even get to the wife, then you realize that this thing is real. And I'm not saying that he played anything or he did anything or he has anything to do with that. But I'm just saying that these are some of the things, some of the anomalies that you have to pay attention to. A sacrifice is necessary and a sacrifice must be made. Now he talks as if he is giving you, narrating a story about spiritual sons, that spiritual son, this. What if he was just talking about an experience that he is familiar with? What if? It's a very, very, very big what if. And trust me on this, there is no prophet who has not given up their family member. None. Like I said earlier, write me a name in the comment section of a prophet whom you believe he has never sacrificed, or who you can say this one has a complete family structure. You'll find none. But the reason why you will not even bother to dig is because you don't audit these men. You don't do background checks. The moment someone comes and say, God said in the realms of the spirit, you have already fallen for them. You don't bother yourself to see where they are coming from. Of which that's the most important thing to do before you choose to follow any man, to check where is this bandit coming from. Because I call them bandits because that's what they truly are. These men are here for one or two reasons, to steal and to destroy. And most of you have been destroyed. And the problem with most of you is that you don't know that you've been destroyed. They've damaged your brains in a way that you are now lacking the capacity or the ability to think for your own selves. You depend on them instead of depending on the source of life, instead of depending on Christ. My spiritual father this, my daddy in the Lord. My people, be wise. Think or sink.